Hello and welcome to the Will I Vike It podcast. I'm your host, Craig, and today my guest is Sarah Rowe. Hello, Sarah.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
I'm happy to be here. I thought it was cool when this podcast isn't too old. Was it about a year or so? Or am I just
I
okay?
think it started November 22, so yeah, just over a year old.
Okay. Yeah. It's been real cool. I've been watching it and seeing what you guys have been doing. It's been sweet.
That's awesome. And I know I did ask you guys quite some time ago. It's taken a while to actually get permission for you to come on, hasn't it?
Yeah, and like making
Yeah.
sure we don't make piss off the powers that be is important. But
Yeah.
like it's a show about Viking food and culture. Like it'll be fine.
Yeah, what's the worst that could happen? I suppose for anyone that doesn't know, I guess you maybe want to explain who you are.
Yeah. Again, my name is Sarah Rowe. I'm 30 years old and I live in Cleveland, Ohio. I'm from Louisville, Kentucky in the mountains, but I am a WWE professional wrestler and my paid job, and then my more full-time jobs are being a mom, a farmer, hunter, butcher, wife. Those are my more more full-time jobs, but I do dabble in wrestling sometimes too.
Occasionally. And I think a
Occasionally, yeah.
bit of weightlifting too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did competitive Olympic weightlifting for a while, and then once I started kind of full-time wrestling, the weightlifting obviously kind of took a back burner. Now I kind of train not to get hurt. Mostly what
Yeah.
like I'm very mobile, so going to my like hyper ranges of mobility and try to strength train there has been doing my body a lot of good.
Yeah. I'm sure it's a tough job. So I'm not going to pretend that I'm a big fan of the WWE. I don't
Hmm.
watch it. I did grow up watching wrestling, as I'm sure a lot of people did.
Right, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, back in the 90s, maybe early 2000s was probably the last time
Attitude
I,
Era. Yeah, Stone Cold and The Rock and
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And a lot of WCW for me back then,
Yeah. That was that big,
which,
war between WWE and WCW, which is cool.
yeah. But we funnily enough, we were watching some clips the other day of you guys just to like, in my research. And so we're
Yeah,
on YouTube, and now Ocean keeps trying to wrestle me. So
yeah.
that's
How
become a
how old's your
thing.
how old's your kid? He's about three or four,
She is 7.
7. Oh, I was way off.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah, growing up
yeah.
fast. Yeah, but
Yeah, they really do.
yeah. Apparently her wrestling name is the Angel, so you guys better
The
watch out
Angel.
because he's one of the good
I'm
guys.
glad you got a good guy. I think Cash is gonna be a bad guy. We've been watching a lot of Lion King, and he keeps recreating the scene where Scar kills Mufasa with various stuffed animals around the house. So
Oh wow, that's awesome.
yeah, he like hangs it over at the edge of something and goes,
Yeah.
"Ah," and just drops it down on the ground. He's
Wow.
done it to
That's
me a
quite
couple
dark.
times. Yeah, I know. I don't know if I should be worried about that or not. We're just gonna
Yeah.
ride it out and see what happens.
Watch your back.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we talk about wrestling for a little bit and then we'll get into the hunting and the farming and stuff, which I'm sure
Yeah.
you'd love to talk about.
Yeah, it's
Um,
my passions, Vikings, hunting,
yeah,
farming.
yeah. Um, so I assume you were a fan of wrestling growing up.
Yeah, kind of like you. I watched it when I was younger,
Yeah,
and my mama was a big wrestling fan, and I'm from Louisville, Kentucky. So Louisville has a very like rich wrestling history. Like there was wrestling there before WWE was even a thing. And so Roach, go, get out of here. Go, dog. Um and so I grew up watching it. It was like the only thing that made
yeah,
my mama cuss. So it was really fun to like watch her get all worked up and yelling at the TV. But like wrestling was never a thing I thought like was in my wheelhouse. Like just from where I was from, and the the tax bracket we were in, like being a
yeah,
WWE superstar was not, I might as well dream to be like an astronaut or something. Um, which is far more likely to happen because I can actually go to school and pay to be an astronaut. You can't pay to be a WWE wrestler. And so I found a local like wrestling group in my area. Like they just, did shows in front of like, you know, 20, 50 people, but they kind of
Yeah.
taught me how to wrestle. And so I about 17, I started kind of like dabbling and kind of learning how, the basics. And
Yeah.
then a guy I knew was like, you should go to Japan. That's where people become the best wrestlers. And I was like, sweet. How do I go to Japan? And so he hooked me up with a Japanese girl in Japan that ran a company called Reina. And I was talking to her literally in high school, like in between
Yeah.
classes. I would like email her back and forth. And 4 days after I graduated high school, my first time on a plane ever, I flew to Japan by
Whoa.
myself. It's crazy. The like the naiveness of me, just like, oh yeah, let's go to Japan. It'll be
How,
fine.
sorry, did you say you were 17?
I just turned 18 when I
Okay.
was going to,
Yeah.
yeah, I just turned. So I was super just like, I'm just gonna go. And I had
Wow.
$20 in my pocket, flew to Japan and lived in the upstairs of the dojo and like on like a little mat and just rounded up whatever food I could find and trained for a crazy amount of time during the day. And was so tired, like crawling to my little mat on the floor, pass out and wake up and do it again. And I did that for 3 months and then
Yeah.
came home for a couple months, went back as a wrestler, not just a trainee, and went back for 3 months, left again for a month, went back for 3 months. So I spent like I speak quite a lot of Japanese because I spent so much time in Japan. And I um just started, after that, I was doing deathmatch wrestling, which was like hardcore stuff. That's why I have
Yeah.
like all these scars on my head. I was like bleeding for money, which was crazy, but I was like, I'm
Wow.
good at getting hurt. It's fine. It makes
How
me
how do
different.
your how did your parents react though to you sort of up in sticks?
Um, I kind of was doing my own thing. Like I'd been moved out since I was like 14. So I was just kind of doing like my parents have always like been there, but like not been there. So I have a
Yeah.
better relationship with them now than I used to. But I had
Okay.
been living in like my high school boyfriend's house since I was like 14. So they couldn't really tell me shit. I was like, I'm gonna go. And
I
because
just
I
got
paid
like
like I
visions. I say I've got visions of ocean, and that's like what 10, 11 years from now. And I'm thinking, would I let her go? No.
oh, of course, like it was definitely like hindsight being what it is. I would
Wow.
never let my kid do that. I was like,
Yeah.
with all
It's
the,
mad.
with all the, people getting sold into things, and like I was like, I would
Yeah.
never let alone a daughter. Like it's one thing to send your son
Yeah.
somewhere, but a daughter. So it was it was it was crazy. Like, and thanks be to God, I didn't like get myself into any dangerous situations. Like I just had this like inner voice that was like, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to party. I like, I need to keep my wits about me, and like I need to make sure I stay safe. Um and I traveled to Japan, I was doing to Mexico, I was going to Scotland, England, Germany, Canada, all around the United States, just like anyone that would say yes. I was like, I'm on my way. And I just started, I became like, I had like blinders on when it came to wrestling. Like it
Yeah.
consumed everything I did. Like my job, I didn't have like a real job. Like I would work at like a gym or something that like I didn't need to be at a whole lot to go wrestle because the schedule was, as you can imagine, crazy. And
Yeah.
then I started doing extra stuff for WWE. Like I was like a makeup artist and I was a model and I was, just little backstage, like little extra stuff. And I was like, okay, like I might be able to get a job here. And I got a tryout. So they would like fly you in and do a tryout with everyone. And Debbie was like, maybe, but like not right now. So I was like, it was kind of like a big letdown. I was like, well, damn, like if I can't go here, I'm not really going to make the money I need to make to just do this.
Yeah.
And so I became a firefighter. I went as a female who's like physically active,
Yeah.
the fire department wants that because they want, more female hires. So I went and passed my CPAP test and became a firefighter. And I wasn't on the truck for 2 months and WWE called me and they were like, actually, we do want to hire you. So I was like, oh, okay. Went to WWE and then it was me and Ray met at the like when I started becoming a firefighter is when we met. And
Yeah.
so we dated right before I got signed, and definitely before he got signed. And I'm doing what I'm doing now. So
Yeah.
that brings us about up to date.
Yeah. That's it's a pretty crazy story. Like
It is.
that's
It was
yeah.
a lot of weirdness.
Yeah.
And that's not even like saying like what happened on the road and like how I, like getting stranded in West
Yeah.
Virginia and doing shows that, you know, I was getting changed in horse stall barns, doing shows at fairs and, all the death matches I did and going to the hospital under a fake name so I could get stitches. And it was just it feels like a lifetime ago. Like it's someone else's
Yeah.
memory.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I
Because I'm
think
only
so sort of
30.
yeah, that's incredible to do all that.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I know sort of being a full-time wrestler is a hard job.
Yeah, it's kind of like being
Uh
like we relate it, especially to when like the independent wrestling, like you're like a struggling like musician, you're playing small shows, you're kind of towing yourself around and you're bringing all your own stuff. And because I would get myself booked, I would talk about pay, I would get myself to the show, I would, bring my own merchandise to sell at the show. So it's a full-time hustle when you're independent wrestler. Now WWE like handles all that stuff. Like I just get told where to show up. Very
yeah.
different contrast. Yeah.
Yeah. So then I think I know you're back with WWE now, but you left for a while sort of during the COVID years.
Yeah, they let go probably I think collectively like 100 wrestlers or something like
Yeah.
that. A crazy amount of wrestlers. They laid off during COVID, and I was part of those wrestlers that got laid off. So I was like, obviously heartbroken, especially because like Ray didn't get fired and I did. So
Yeah.
that, like poor me, yeah, but like poor Ray too. And so, but we were
Yeah.
like Ray looked at me because we were just waiting until my wrestling career kind of slowed down to have a kid, and like that happened. He looked at me and he's like, let's have a kid. And of course, it made, everything so much better. Like I've been wanting a kid I actually didn't want kids till I met Ray. And then I met Ray and I was like, yes, I would love to have all the children you would give me. So I got pregnant. WWE actually offered me my job back, but I was pregnant. So we decided to wait a little bit. And when I was ready to come back, I called them and I came back. And so, but we bring cash everywhere, right? We don't want to leave him at home when we're not there. So he's
Yeah.
gone.
Yeah.
Cash has been to Germany. Cash has been to Puerto Rico. Cash has been to Canada. He's been very
Wow.
well-traveled toddler. Yeah.
Yeah. That's yeah, incredible childhood. It's
Yeah, he doesn't even know how cool he is. Like Rey Mysterio tries to play with him, The Undertaker tries to play with him, and he's like, "Nah, get away." I'm like, "You don't know how cool you are, kid."
but then he'll probably end up rebelling, right? And go the opposite direction and do something else.
Either he's going to, want to follow directly in our footsteps, and I'm gonna be like, "Save your body, kid. Don't do it." Or he's gonna, yeah, become like a CPA or something, do someone's taxes or whatever.
So I was asked to ask you something. Um, and it'll kind of, I think, from what I've heard of you before, it'll tie in and we can move on from wrestling to hunting afterwards.
Okay.
Um, yeah. So I was told to ask whether you're treated any differently as a woman in wrestling.
No, it's I like maybe back in the day, but like nowadays
Yeah.
it's pretty. I think it's more of a like who brings the most money into the show. Like you
Yeah.
bring in more money, you get treated better. So like Becky Lynch, for instance, or Ronda Rousey, like, got treated great, 'cause they're like everyone
Yeah.
gets, treated well. But me and Ray and Todd, we're Vikings or yeah, we're Vikings on TV. So we get
Yeah.
treated like we're Vikings on TV. Like we'll get like our like promos or whatever we're gonna say, and they're like, just add some Viking stuff to it, like we don't know what you Vikings say, like just and especially like being with the boys, I'm kind
Yeah.
of out of the women's division. Like I'm part of the women's roster, but like I'm with the boys. So like a lot of the like normal day-to-day woman stuff, I like kind of
Yeah.
come check in with the girls, but No, I like we get treated very, and I think because like I think any company in like such a public light, like really is careful with, how they're
Yeah,
treating everyone, especially, the females, because suffrage movement and whatnot, had kind of the brunt of it
yeah,
for a while. So it it's nice. And I feel like sometimes they go especially out of their way to make sure we're, treated nicely and that we don't feel like over sexualized or, things like that.
yeah.
Like I literally came to TV because like when they told me that I was gonna come with the boys and they wanted me to be Valhalla, I came dressed like that, like complete like horns on, and they're like, sweet, great. So I just showed up and I was like, is this okay? And then um especially as like our Viking groups, we have a lot of creative freedom, because
Yeah.
I had someone like, can you mention like Thor or Odin? Like it's the only Viking words they knew. I was like, yeah, sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's for me, the reason why that could link into hunting, and we can kind of move on to that, is
Uh-huh.
because I can't remember what I was listening to. It might have even been because you had a podcast for a while, didn't you? Hunting
Yeah,
podcast.
yeah, yeah. Before I got hired back. Yep.
Yeah. So the reason it ties in with that is because I think I heard you say at one point that you weren't allowed to hunt when you were younger. Like your family didn't let you do it, so you'd go out and do the tracking and stuff, but not the hunting itself.
Right, yeah, yeah,
Which is kind of what made me
yeah.
think of the treatment as a woman being differently in hunting as well.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
like, if we're talking like traditional family roles, like the man would hunt the food, and they would come home and I would prepare the food. But and that's a lot of it's like in my current standing in our house, like me and Ray will both hunt, but like I'm the one that cooks. And I feed my
Yeah.
I enjoy like feeding my family and providing and like making great dinners, and I love when people come over and I can cook and be like, this meat's so amazing because of how we raised it. And like, I
Yeah.
very much like doing that. So but yeah, growing up, like it was a very like it wasn't even asked if I wanted to go hunting, like it's just assumed I didn't want to go and like or
Yeah.
assumed I didn't. Um so I would get my like itching when I would do the tracking, and I still probably because I like grew up doing it, like anyone in our neighborhood, if they put a deer down, like they'll call me and I'll
Yeah.
come track it because I like I was tracking a deer with our neighbor's son-in-law the other day, and the son-in-law, he's from California, he's never been hunting, and he just wanted to get like his first deer, and so he shoots one with a crossbow, and but the track job is rough, right? Like a lot of the deer around here, they're so fed on corn, they're actually like fat, so you'll shoot them and that fat will move in front of the open wound and they don't bleed as well as you would hope because the fat is
Yeah.
blocking the and so we're tracking it, and we're probably 45 minutes in, just finding spots of blood here or there. And we get to where we know now, but I didn't know at the time, we were like 40 yards from us and the deer. And I looked, and the dude's wife was with us, and I looked at her, and I was like, I smell death. She was like, what? I was like, I smelled like, I didn't mean to sound that dramatic, but I was like, I smell like a dead animal. Like, I think we're
Yeah.
close. And it was, and walking a little bit, it was 40 yards down the way, and we found the deer and happily ever after. And then we start skinning, field dressing the deer, and I have like a grip and rip method. Like I don't like taking a knife because if I don't have a bone saw to like open the chest cavity, I don't
Yeah.
like taking a knife in there and just like blindly cutting. So I'll grip and rip. I'll, kind of start cutting the lining, then I'll just like scoop stuff out and I'll grab the esophagus and just rip it out. And then, after you get the esophagus
Yeah.
out and all those connect, it just all comes out. And the dude was like very like, you want me to do that without gloves on or like and I was like, yeah, like let's go, come on. And um just looked like a complete psychopath. But yeah, I'm real passionate about
Yeah.
like I even hunting where we live, I will hunt for like my dog, but with how I'm raising my food at my farm and the readily available corn and soybeans and stuff that all the deer here are eating, I don't like to eat deer here. unless it's like out in the woods, out in the woods. Like if the
Yeah.
deer, which are the deer around here are around a bunch of agriculture fields, like they bed down in corn. And if I'm not feeding my cows corn because I don't want the pesticides and herbicides in the animal fat,
Yeah.
so I like if I could go to like I went and hunted bears in West Virginia, like deep in the woods. Like I know that animal is just eating a proper diet of it in the woods. If I go, to the mountains of Montana and I'm, you know, hunting an elk that I know is, miles and miles from any, civilization, then
Yeah.
yeah, I'll eat that. But I do have an issue eating deer around where we live because they're literally living in pesticides. So
I mean,
gotta
they're
pick
almost
and
farmed
choose
at
what
that point, aren't they?
yeah, they're
Yeah.
fat and
Yeah.
we have raccoons here that are like 40 pounds. They're just humongous because they just eat corn all freaking day. Like it's an issue. Like they stand up
Yeah.
and their stomachs are still on the ground, like they're fat. So
Wow.
it's it's I go out of my way. I like my chickens, they're omnivores, so I give them feed, but they only get organic feed and they're free range chickens and our cows only eat grass. That's why I do a regenerative farm and rotationally graze. So they're not so
Yeah.
they're because animal fat is one of the most nutritious things you can eat as far as vitamins. And
Yeah.
so if the so I'm eating their fat. So if their fat has, all of our waste in our body goes into our fat for storage. So I just don't want to be eating pesticides and herbicides while I'm enjoying my food.
Yeah, it makes sense. So, is there a reason why you guys bow hunt rather than with a rifle? Like in the UK, bow hunting's illegal.
Oh wow.
Um, I'm not 100% sure why.
If I had to guess why bow hunting is illegal, is because it takes a lot more skill to humanely kill an animal with a bow versus
Yeah.
with a gun, right?
Yeah.
Like just the kinetic energy alone when you shoot something, like if you like slow-mo film a deer being shot, like you see the kinetic energy like ripple through this deer, right? It looks very traumatic, right? Like
Yeah.
boom. I would rather an arrow go through my arm than a gunshot, like, 'cause it's gonna mess up everything around it. Like an
Yeah.
arrow, it just pierces, it doesn't like
Yeah.
kinetic energy out. So, I would guess just for, just taking a jab at it, just a lot of people argue that it's more humane to shoot an animal versus bow hunt an animal.
Yeah.
Um, I would agree if like you've never practiced and you don't have any skill and you just want to like go out there and see if you can stick something, then yeah, you're probably gonna hurt the animal. But
Yeah.
in my like if you hit a deer right, it's called like the vital V. So if you get like double lungs or you get like heart and lungs or anything but with the lungs or the heart, especially the heart, it takes that deer like 40 seconds to die. And if your your broadhead on your arrow is so sharp that the animal almost doesn't know, like it can feel that it's been like hit with something, and so the
Yeah.
animal gets scared or runs away, but
Yeah.
it doesn't know what's happening. It's kind of like if you cut your finger off, you don't feel it when you cut it off because it happens so quickly. You're like, um
Yeah.
so a lot of the times the deer just is running and blood just pumping out of it and it gets tired and sleeps and doesn't wake back up. Like especially if you get a double lung shot, like the deer
Yeah.
will go bed down and lay down and it just won't wake back up. So there's definitely like I think if you get a great shot, I definitely think it's more humane to use an arrow rather than a gun. But for straight just like death purposes, then
Yeah.
a gun is a more sure, especially with like the sights and scopes and things like that. Like it's a definite more of a sure thing.
Yeah. I guess you guys have a bigger area to hunt as well. I mean, the UK's tiny in comparison to where you are.
Yeah, like I alone have 50 acres just by myself, and we have a lot of public land that we could hunt. There's tons of like public land hunting where you can go and like even during like bow season, like during gun season, you have to wear a bunch of orange. So like, hey, don't shoot me, like I'm out because the range you could shoot with a gun, like a decent archer won't is not going to shoot out of like especially here because the woods are so dense. You're not going to really take a shot that's more than 40 yards.
Yeah.
So you have to be close to the deer
Yeah.
to like if I have a rifle, I can hundreds of yards, I can shoot that deer. So and our bow season, especially here in Ohio, is from like September to February. Gun season in the States or in Ohio is like a week or a weekend. So there's definitely a lot
Right.
more opportunity to hunt, to bow, because we
Yeah.
have bow season, we have muzzleloader season, we have youth seasons, we have firearm, gun season. So, but you can hunt with a bow throughout the whole thing, which is cool.
Yeah. You mentioned you shoot bears earlier too, right? I didn't hear you
Yeah,
then.
we did not the guys we were hunting with would not let us use a bow because we were using dogs to tree the deer, and he's
Yeah.
had the arrow, like the dogs, like once the arrow passes through, the dogs have like cut their paws on broadheads.
Yeah,
So
fair.
we hunted with like using dogs in like the West Virginia mountains. Like it was like the dogs treed the bear, and then you shoot the bear from the tree, and the bear goes friggin' it's it's a crazy experience watching these dogs like run this bear up a tree. And actually, it's the only form of catch and release hunting that doesn't harm the animal whatsoever. So all year long, even if it's not hunting season, these dogs will practice just putting the bear in the tree. And then once the bear's in the tree, they call the dogs off. The bear stays up there for about another 20 minutes, then it crawls down. So these guys are running their dogs like almost all year, and then for a couple months out of the year, you can actually take a shot at the bear.
And that's for, I'm assuming that's for food as well. You eat the bears.
Yeah, well, for us for sure. Like bear, because we got bear, and it was in September, so it was like right after, right after summer. So the
Yeah.
bears were eating tons of berries, and they were just out in the sticks, and it tasted like sweet beef. Like
Yeah.
bear does. If you get like we are what we eat, right? So like if the bear is just smashing berries and it's getting ready to hibernate, um, it tastes really sweet. So like I'll make like meatloaves and do roast, and like the bear is just so good.
So we already discussed that when you were younger, you weren't allowed to do the actual hunting. So when did you start your hunting?
Um, Not until the first time I went like bow hunting was, and it was with a crossbow, it wasn't even with a compound or recurve bow, was before me and Ray got married. So I told my dad, I was like, "Hey, I want to hunt a deer for our wedding. Like I would love to serve the deer at our wedding." And he's like, "All right, great." And he, set up tree stands, and it took like a whole weekend for me to I saw one deer and I shot that deer, and luckily that's we took it home. But it
Wow.
yeah, so
Yeah.
I been around hunting for a long time, but the first time I
Yeah.
actually like put an animal down was, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, recently, it was probably 5 years ago because that's when me and Ray got married.
And that was for your wedding.
Yeah, yeah, like we had
Yeah.
the European mount like on the table, so just like the skull and the antlers, and like I shot like a good sized buck, and we did like a bunch of roasts and stuff for the deer, and it was really cool, like having the deer I hunted
Yeah.
served at our wedding.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. The nearest I've come to that is when we got our first proper house together and garden, we raised ducks. So we hatched the ducks and raised them because I had in my head I wanted to raise and grow my own Christmas dinner. So
Well,
I grew
nice
all the
little,
veg in the
yeah.
garden and got the ducks and yeah.
I love duck. That would have been we don't have any like a pond or anything around here, like any water for them to really, so that's why I don't have ducks. But I do love my chickens, and duck eggs are delicious. They're a lot more like dense and rich. They're
And
a lot more
rich.
rich
Yeah.
than like chicken
Rich.
eggs. Like you can't like I could probably eat at least 6 to 8 chicken eggs in like a sitting. I could not eat that many duck eggs, like for sure not.
Nah. So the other thing I was going to get you to recount was the story of when you went into labor, because I've heard you tell this before, which
Yeah.
might sound strange to anyone that doesn't know, but it does involve hunting.
It all makes sense. Yeah, so I was like 2 weeks late at this point. So I've been hunting through my entire pregnancy. Like I took down hogs, I hunted the bear while I was pregnant, I hunted a few deer while I was pregnant. and I wanted Cash to know that, like, that rush of and but I was like 2 weeks late. So Ray was like, I was like, I'm not hunting tonight. Like, I don't want to sit in a tree stand because I would like sit in like, because I wasn't going in a tree stand, obviously, because I didn't want to climb being
Yeah,
pregnant in case I fell. But I
sure.
was in like hunting blinds or like shooting houses. So I was having to like sit and like turn my body, and being pregnant, my back was just not having it. So I told Ray, I was like, you go hunt, please, like hunt in memory of me. I'll be in here, pregnant. And so Ray was hunting and he shot a deer right out back. And he only like got like the end of one lung. And so we were on blood, but we couldn't find this deer, right? Or Ray couldn't find it. So he's like, hey, do you want to track? I know you. And I'm like, yeah, I do. I'll be right out. So I'm in full coveralls, jacket, because there's probably 2 feet of snow outside. So it
Yeah.
was, we get like surprise blizzards here because we live right by Lake Erie. And we're tracking this deer for probably 2 hours. We like try, we have like an app that like, kind of help us retrace our steps. And we had tracked like a mile and a half, like collectively, just looking for this deer. And I'm like, climbing over logs and under things, and I'm in a bunch of snow, right? So I'm like really picking my feet up, and I was joking. I was like, if this don't put me into labor, like nothing will. Ha ha ha. And so
Famous
we
last
couldn't find
words.
the yeah, right. We couldn't find the deer. And we're like, no problem. We'll leave it tonight. We'll come back in the morning and see if we can find it. So at like 1:30 a.m., I go to the bathroom, my water breaks, and just, time to have this baby. So birth story is another thing in itself. Had the child. A month later, right? Our neighbor calls us and it's like, "Hey, did you guys put down a deer?" And we're like, "Yeah, but like a month ago." And he showed us the picture, and the buck Ray got was old, so it had really weird antlers.
Yeah.
And Ray was like, "Oh my gosh, that's my deer." The deer died and it got snowed over, so it preserved the deer for over a month. It was in a freezer. So when the snow finally melted, our neighbor found the deer, and like the meat was trash, but we were able to, uh cape it out and at least do a mount from it to like commemorate this crazy story. And I'm sure we'll put the deer in Cash's room when he isn't just sharing our room right now. But yeah, I went into labor tracking a deer that we found a month
Yeah.
later. Like the finding it later is insane
That's
to
a
me.
mad story. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. As I said, no, I heard you'd mentioned it before. It was probably on your podcast. But yeah, it's a pretty
Yeah, it
crazy
was
story.
I think all the big stepping was what finally did me in with Catch wanting to come out. Maybe because we didn't find it, he was like, I'll find it myself. And wanted to come out.
I mean, I've seen pictures of you. You still go out with him, sort of, well, maybe not so much now, but I've seen pictures of him strapped to your back as you're going out
Yeah,
hunting and farming, and
I've been
yeah,
hunting with him before where like I, he's in the carrier and I'm like I'm spot and stalking, right? So like
yeah.
ideally you want to be quiet, So
Good luck.
I'm in this, yeah, right. I'm in this place and there's like a bunch of hills. So I'm like, maybe if I'm quiet enough when I breach these hills, I just need to be ready because like a deer could be there. So I'm coming up over this hill and there's 12 deer in front of me, right? I'm like, oh, your heart starts go, 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 go. I'm like, oh my gosh. So like I go to pull back and like Cash goes, whoo, whoo, whoo. Just makes these random little, and all the deer run away. Like, I'm laughing about it, just watching them go. And then a couple minutes later, I was like, could you imagine if I was hungry? If like
Yeah.
me and Cash were hungry and I'm trying to like hunt these deer and they're just running away. I mean, if we were hungry, I probably wouldn't have a toddler strapped to me to hunt, but it's something I've always wanted to do, like during hunting season, like fast until I get a deer. And
Yeah.
then like, because I've never, very privileged. I've never truly been like starving hungry.
Sure. Yeah.
So I think it'd be a good like, a little character development for me to do that.
I guess that's difficult if you're being in the WWE and training and stuff to like fast for a period.
Well, yeah, and like I don't eat as much as you would think. So like I eat like a bear, right? I eat like meat, berries, some fruits, maple syrup, and dairy. That's all I really eat. And so I eat very like nourishing and satiating foods. So
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not a person that needs to eat every 2 hours because I just am not, my foods are very, for breakfast I'll have 6 eggs, coffee that's like this much coffee and like the rest is cream, and I'll be good until like 2 or 3. I'll eat some kind of meat with some fruit, maybe. I'll do like tree nuts and berries, and I'll eat that, and then we'll have like a bigger dinner. I'll like do like a roast or whatever with some like carrots and mushrooms at the bottom. And but it's we don't have like Uber Eats or anything where I live. We don't have,
Yeah.
the modern luxuries. So I cook simply, and only cook a couple times a day. I try to do bigger portions, but I don't eat as much as I don't have the typical like athlete, because a lot of athletes like smash carbs, for
Yeah.
energy. And
Yeah.
it is true that carbs are the body's like easiest source of energy, right? If you want to get quick energy, like feed the body a sugar, it's going to break it down and use it. But a more satiating and longer energy is going to be fat. So you just have to eat in a way that you can train the body to use fat stores instead of sugar stores. And because think in nature, things only eat carbs when they're available, which is going to be spring and summer. And they eat these carbs to
Yeah.
put on fat, to because they're not going to have these carbs, and it's going to be a lean time during the winter. So like if you're trying not to carry extra weight, it's probably not a good idea to eat like animals eat when they're trying to gain weight, So I love ancestral eating. I love eating to my design as a human. I love eating to the seasons. And it's something that I have, because it's the way my species has been eating for millions of years, like my body responds really well to it. And I make sure I walk every day. Like walking is a very human thing to do, super great for you,
Yeah.
that's overrated. And I make sure I ancestrally eat to the best of my knowledge. Now, I'm a white American, like I don't know very much where my deep ancestors are from, right? But I
Yeah.
can kind of take a guess, just, how I look and whatever. But like I read this super interesting article, and I might send it to you. I feel like you'd be into it. It's like what the Irish ate before potatoes, and that potatoes are a very like crap, we need to feed a lot of people in a cheap
Yeah.
way crop, right? They're not like, they have potassium in them, but like comparatively to other carbohydrates like nuts or fruit, they are very low in nutrients. So we
Yeah. Yeah.
took very nutrient dense food like fruits, dairy, nuts, and replaced it with something that's void of nutrients almost, especially like breads, especially like a ill prepared bread, is not going to be. So we took a huge part of our diet and just took all the nutrients out of it and kept the calories. So our bodies are
Yeah.
like, what's happening? I feel like we're starving, so I'm just going to put this fat away because we're not really eating anything. It's very
It,
confusing for our bodies.
it's amazing kind of how dependent on potatoes we are, really. I mean, like in this part of the world, we've only had them for a couple hundred years.
Right. And it's like
And
a
it's like
mostly what people eat. Yeah.
it's a mainstay. Like, yeah,
And and especially beef, like I love beef, right? But if like I was just feeding my family, and I would probably raise sheep for meat and keep my cow for dairy, and
yeah,
just, it's expensive on the land to have cows. It's more expensive. And
yeah,
granted, you get more bang for your buck as far as like overall like meat, and which is why we can do it here because we have the land and we have the manpower. But like if I was just trying to feed us the most low cost way possible, I would get meat rabbits and I would raise sheep, and I would keep one
yeah,
cow, maybe two, for milk. Because like that article about what the like Irish, ancient Irish people ate like hazelnuts, they ate the crap out of dairy and sheep, you know. And with those three
Yeah.
foods and like seasonal fruit, but those three foods you can make tons of things out of, you know? Um, and because I'm able to live like a human who can thrive every day of my life, like I want to do that. I want to eat the best things and nourish myself. And like I always struggled with like, I'm half naked every week, right? I used to be less naked now, but I used to be, I wore
Yeah.
like a top and shorts, and my body refused to get rid of like I was never like I dieted and exercised till the freaking cows went home, and I didn't have abs. Like I was smaller, but
Yeah.
I didn't look like I felt like I should have with the work I was putting in. I was like, I feel like I should look more like an athlete than I do. Like this girl works out a quarter of what I do, and she's shredded. Like, what's going on? And so I realized that like I my body was under so much stress nutritionally and just physically that
Mm.
my body was like in constant homeostasis. If anything, it was trying to pack on weight because I was not feeding it. Like I
Yeah.
was eating calories, but there's no nutrients in my cal. I was eating freaking chicken and rice. Like there's no nutrients in that. So my body went into a state where it's like, we don't know when we're being fed again. So we're going to keep this fat on. Like hormonally, just got to keep this fat on. And it's not until probably the last year or so of my life where I've been truly just feeding myself and I'm losing weight. But I don't eat any
Yeah.
processed foods that even potatoes I find tricky, right? So like I was eating a steak and some potatoes. Me and Ray went out for like a dinner for our anniversary. It's like a 22-ounce steak. I'm smashing it, right? So good. There was like 3 ounces left, and I was like, Ray, I can't eat anymore. Like, please take this steak. Like, I'm stuffed. And so he's like, we're sitting there talking, and I grab a scoop of potatoes and put it in my mouth. And I'm eating it, and I was like, hold on. If I am so full, I cannot eat any more steak. What is up with these potatoes that like I can't stop eating them,
Yeah.
you know? And
Yeah.
I think about that when I eat foods like smoothies just piss me off. Like in no world are you eating 3 apples, 2 cups of berries, 5 handfuls of kale. Like your body just can't eat that like that. And there's a
Yeah.
reason for it. So the more I call them my food oaths, right? Like I took an oath like not to eat this garbage. And so I find that my body is really thriving on like I know when I'm full. I know when I'm hungry. Like I feel like we've lost that as people to know when we're truly full and we're truly hungry because we have so
Yeah.
much processed crap in
We
our
almost
diet.
graze on food, don't we? It is just there whenever we
Right. Well,
want.
like
Yeah.
cows, they're grazers. They need to kind of eat all
Yeah.
day, right? That's how their
Yeah.
stomachs are set up. That's how their rumens are set up. But like we're not meant to eat that way.
Yeah.
And so like I like what so I love eggs, right? I will eat eggs every day until the day I die. I love them. But I'm never like, oh, I can't stop eating these eggs. They're so good.
Yeah.
My
There's a
body knows
limit.
when it's done with eggs, you know?
Yeah.
And if I have a food that's making me like I can't stop eating it, like I'm like, whoa, what's going on? Red
Yeah.
flag. I just don't. But it took me a long time. Like I went carb free like when I was in Japan just because I wanted to lose weight. So there was no like rhyme or reason to what I was doing. I got super small, right? Just like skinny. And I was getting hurt wrestling because I didn't have like any like because I was smaller, like I didn't have any fat on my body, but also didn't have any muscle on my body because I was just hungry, right?
Yeah.
Um, and then I went to like a more traditional like bodybuilder diet, like just counting macros, counting like fats, carbs, and protein, how whatever I could, like it was like a math equation each day, like how many foods can I fit into this metabolic window? Um, and then I went straight carnivore for a while. As a menstruating woman wasn't the best for me personally. Um,
Yeah.
and so then I went into a point where, especially after I had cash, I was like, for my next child, I need to just nourish the crap out of myself. I was eating, if it was like a whole food, I was eating everything. Just eating, 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 eating. Like I breastfed for 2.5 years too, right? Like exclusively breastfed my child. He wouldn't eat nothing but breast milk for 2.5 years.
That's
So,
hard.
yeah, and like
Mm.
these things are stresses on the body, right? So
Yeah.
it wasn't until I stopped breastfeeding, started kind of moving my body every day, but not like killing myself doing CrossFit or something,
Yeah.
and cutting all the bullshit carbs out of my diet. I'm all for carbs. I don't like bullshit carbs like rice, and I eat potatoes occasionally. Like potatoes aren't technically not on my food oaths because they're not a processed food, but I'm careful with them. They're tricky.
Yeah.
Um, but I'll smash the crap out of like, because then I went on this big rabbit hole of like, well, let's talk about ancient fruits. Like, what fruits do we have nowadays that like weren't what they used to be, right? So
Yeah.
like bananas and apples and things like this just were not have been genetically modified into the point where it's a completely different plant. So I was like, all right, what fruit can I eat that my body's going to recognize on a ancestral level? So like that's like
Yeah.
berries and figs.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my diet. That's why I raise animals and why I haven't grown anything here yet. I think until I stop wrestling, growing stuff is not something I want to shoulder. So I just get
I
like
feel like,
organic.
yeah. Like I said, I feel like you guys already do a lot. And so to add growing stuff to the list, like, I don't know how
Yeah,
you do it.
I'm only I'm already like when we wake up, we have to be like, all right, we got to drop hay for the cows, we have to feed the chickens, we got to get the eggs, we got to make sure they have water because it's cold, shit stuff's freezing. We got to
Yeah.
make sure the cow water's full. Everything is wet here right now. Like I have a mud farm, so like, all right, where can we drop this hay where we're not going to get the tractor stuck? All right, we got that in. All right, let's do our first workout of the day, which just like kind of be some moving our bodies, some resistance work, some like little human movements. And then we wake Cash up. We're parents, I'm cooking food, wheeling and dealing. I'm getting stuff out for dinner. And then we usually go on a walk, about a 45-minute walk. Gotta get the walk in. And then we do like Viking practice once a week. I fly it on Sundays, and we got mass on Sundays. And it's it can get to where I'm like, okay, this. I like to we read every day, so I gotta make sure I'm reading a book every day of some
Yeah.
capacity.
That's mad.
Got Roach, my dog. She's pretty
Yeah.
self-sufficient though.
So yeah, I did have a question, but I think we kind of covered it really, which was just that why did you start a farm in the first place? But we kind of talked
Well,
earlier
like,
about your
yeah. Well, when COVID happened, there
yeah,
was that scare of like, I want to be able to feed us and not have
yeah,
to, worry about that. So, when COVID happened, and everything happened, very coincidental. Like COVID happened, I got fired, so I was like, I have time, and we have the land. Like, let's get some cows. So we raise Highland cows for beef on our farm, and I have a couple jerseys for milk. Um, and just like I do love cows, like they're great, they're cute, but they are a very high price animal as far as like land destruction. Like we have to have
sure.
sacrifice areas during this time of the year because it's just everything. Like the past couple winters have been very warm, so nothing's freezing, so the ground is just suffering in our little sacrifice area up here. um
Yeah.
it wouldn't be an animal that I would like keep for funsies, that's for sure. Like a lot of people have pet cows. I'm like, why? Get a dog.
Because they see pictures of you on social media with your cows and you're like, look at my lovely cow.
They are lovely. I just wouldn't have, I just
Yeah.
need to do like monthly reminders. I wouldn't have this cow if I didn't eat it.
Ducks are like that though. Ducks stink. They're like terrible. And like never again. I've done that.
Yeah, that's why, like, if I had a pond, like a
Yeah,
natural pond, I might get ducks, but like, they're gross. And
they
to
are.
have like a little kiddie pool or something,
That's what we
I,
did.
that, yeah,
They lived in our house
it
for
gets
a while.
nasty. Oh no.
When they first hatched and they were under the lamp and they were like,
Oh, and the
we'd clean
brooder,
them,
yeah.
and go to work and come back and the house would stink and clean them out again. Like, oh, it was
Because
terrible.
they have to have like their food has to be wet, right, to eat it. Like they have to
Yeah,
have
they need
water with
water.
their, and so they're getting their
Yeah.
food and they're pooping in the water. So like it's food, poop, and duck in a
And
soup.
they're literally like pet food, pet water, and it's all just like mushed together and poop.
Yep.
And yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I would not recommend ducks if you unless you have a pond. If you have like a natural habitat for them, go crazy. And then collecting the eggs get so gross
Yeah.
because everything's wet.
Yeah.
So like a lot of times, if I pick my eggs up every day, I don't have to wash them because they're not dirty. Duck eggs, there's no way it's not getting dirty.
Our chickens don't lay at the moment. They've got to an age where they're not laying anymore. So we kind of
How old are your
got
chickens?
pets at them. Uh, I reckon three of them will be probably about 3 years now. And then the other couple would be sort of 2 years. We kind of extended
They're not
the
laying
flock.
anymore?
No,
No.
they
I
stopped.
find that so they definitely do slow down when it gets, not it's not as daytime for as long. But I find if I buy them really nice feed,
Yeah.
they will lay more. Are yours free range or are they in a house?
They're in like a big cage
Like a big
area.
run? So
Yeah.
they're in like
Yeah.
natural sunlight and stuff.
Yeah. And I
Yeah,
like they put themselves to bed and stuff. Like they work
which
their
is
own
nice.
hours. Like,
Yeah, yeah, I
yeah.
do love.
They've got it
I have an
good.
automatic chicken door that, will close when it gets because we have, coyotes and raccoon, our fat raccoons here. And foxes. We've had a big fox problem. But
I
yeah,
haven't
I
seen a
find if
fox since we lived here.
I mean that's
We had
good. I mean,
yeah.
good thing if you have chickens.
Yeah. When we lived in town, we had fox. My wife accidentally left the door open one day, and it wasn't that the fox got in, the chickens got out,
Mm.
and then the fox got the chickens, and we lost them.
And chickens are like everything eats chicken, and a lot of prey animals will like like rabbits. If something's killing the rest of the rabbits, the other rabbits freeze, right? And they
Yeah.
go hide. Chickens don't have that freeze instinct, and they just keep running. So even if the fox just wanted a chicken, it can't help itself because all the chickens are like,
Yeah.
ah. And the fox goes on a killing spree. I imagine it's like, what have I done? Like blood everywhere. But yeah, chickens aren't I enjoy them, but they're not the smartest
No.
things. They're a little dumb.
Yeah.
Because we do free range though, my dumb ones don't last very long. Like I have one that's like 3 years old and she's been, you know, friggin' hanging in there because she's lasted two foxes, some hawks. But I have four roosters now on accident, so they're doing a pretty good job protecting the girls.
By accident, did you say?
Yeah, like they're all supposed to be girls, but like it's hard to
Ah, okay.
sex chickens,
Yeah.
And I have
Yeah.
Brahmas, the big old chickens with like the fuzzy feet. So these
Yeah.
roosters are huge. They even have like like chicken noises, like super deep. None of it. So I've been like attacked by a few roosters. So I'm like I give them a
Yeah.
wide berth, I'm very respectful
Yeah.
of their space. And these chickens haven't came at me at all. The roosters haven't came at me at all. But they always are like in between me and the girls, which I respect, but I'm like,
Mm.
don't freaking do it, man. Like, don't.
You'll end up in the pot.
I've blinded one rooster.
Yeah.
Yeah, came after me, and I have so he would only come after me if my back was turned.
Yeah.
His name was Chip. He protected the girls really well, and he never had like attacked me, but he would try. So I knew if I turned around, I would hear like do 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 do. If I turned around and looked at him, he would like stop, like I wasn't doing. But this time he had like an extra courage, and he kept coming after me, and I had a rattan stick that had been in water because it was outside. So it's just like
Yeah.
a big piece of wood, and I swung at him. And if I hit his body, he would still come after me. I had to hit him in the head, but I hit him in the head too hard because the stick was wet, and the poor thing, I like knocked it out, and I thought I killed it. And I was like, dang it, I didn't want to kill the dude. I just didn't want him to attack me. So I'm like somberly collecting eggs. I'm like, oh, the rooster's dead. And I come out and he's up. And I was like, oh, I just knocked him out. And like when I was around him,
Wow.
he would stand up and then I would go away and he would like crouch down and like he was like all wobbly. And but I hit him so hard I blinded one of his eyes. Ultimately a fox got him a few months later. Um, but he was an all right rooster. These ones are a lot better. They're not even trying to attack me, which is hard being on a farm. All these things trying to get
Yeah.
at you.
Life's trying to get you. Yeah, I mean, we've been talking for like what, an hour?
Oh yeah, that flies by. Yeah. Bye.
And we haven't even like covered half what we probably could have done. I've still got like a long list of questions. We didn't touch on reenactment and Vikings and
You get me
but
talking about food. I can,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
That was yeah, actually no, there was one other because I know it's probably slightly controversial, but we were talking about your cows.
Yeah.
And I think some people probably wonder how you can, because you can see on social media, like I said, like the images, you love your cows, right?
Yeah. I do.
So
I do love
then
them.
some people might wonder how you're still able to slaughter them. I had the same thing with my ducks. I was posting videos online and people are like, you'll never be able to go through with it. Like, well, I have to, like that's life.
Right. And I think that two thoughts on that. One, I
Yeah,
think that just as humans, we personify, we put our human into other animals that just aren't capable of feeling the things we feel. Like I think dogs have a lot of learned behavior from humans, but it's not like in their nature, right? So my cows are very in their nature. They're not
yeah,
like I don't go out there and cuddle like, my milk cow, I can scratch her and get all, but like they're still feral cows. They live outside. They're cows. And so I think a lot of people will put how we would feel into the cow.
yeah,
And cow is not capable, it doesn't have a consciousness, it has no real sense of self to like it has no sin or virtue, a cow, right? So
yeah,
it is hard to I take peace in the fact that these emotions I'm feeling about butchering this cow are not the thing the cow is feeling. And I know this to be a fact because when I shot our first bull, I went out and shot him while everyone was eating hay. I walked up to him, and so the cows ran away initially because it's loud. I have a gun, but they came
yeah,
back and they were like, "What's going on?" And they're like trying to play with the bull I just shot. They're like, What are you doing?" And like just very
yeah,
curious. Like they had no sense of like what I actually did. I do take peace in that like I know for a fact they're not like I was worried they were going to be scared of me or like
yeah,
mourn the because he was the sire of our farm, right? He was like top of the pecking order. I was like they're not going to mourn him, like him and one of our cows here that was like they were their each other's first loves, and I was putting way too much human into these cows, right?
yeah,
Also, part of the kindness I offer these cows is to be sad when I slaughter them.
yeah,
Like I'm not like, oh, screw it. Like this was food. Like I am sad for them, and I'm sad that you know that that they have to die. But I'm also thankful. Like I don't, how like when people will bring like, oh, we're all guilty of it. You'll buy something, you'll like a piece of meat, you'll stick it in the fridge, and you'll be like, oh crap, I forgot. Kid just fell.
wow,
People like, oh crap, I forgot this was in here, and it goes bad, and you got to chuck it out. Like I don't do that with my. I'm
yeah,
like,
yeah,
I write their names on the packages so I know the full weight of what I'm eating. And
wow,
we have a we shoot the cow, like we pray over it. Like I raise my own meat for the same reasons why people are vegan or vegetarian. Like I saw a problem with how it was done.
yeah,
So instead of no meat, I said better meat, and I do it myself. I choose to take on the full weight of my meal.
yeah, yeah,
People If people had more of an opportunity to do that, I think it would do people a lot of good. The opportunity just isn't there. But I try when I butcher to be
Mm.
like, who wants to be a part of this? Like it's a life-changing experience to
Yeah.
slaughter and butcher an animal. And then, it very, very humbling and emotional and like when you're hunting, that adrenaline's there, right? I'm like, is it gonna happen? Am I gonna be good enough? Is the deer gonna be stupid? Because I have to do everything right and the deer has to do everything wrong for this kill to happen, right?
Yeah.
The cow, I know it's gonna die. So there's no adrenaline. There's just it's sad and somber but like once I get in there and I see how beautiful the meat is and I see how beautiful the fat is and I see you can tell in the meat how well the animal was raised. You can
Yeah, sure.
100%.
Yeah.
And like it becomes you become happy. You're like this true animal truly lived a fantastic life. Like I can see it. And another reason why we butcher here is I don't want their last day to be their worst day. I don't want to send them off to a butcher shop that they've never been to before and they're seeing every cow is scared because they're not
Yeah.
scared because they're going to die. They're scared because they're in a weird dark place with a bunch of other scared animals. So I that's a kindness I offer too. I'm not going to just ship them off and
Yeah.
so it's it's a heavy weight to carry but a necessary one.
Yeah. I mean, people are weird, strange when it comes to meat because I think a lot of people do struggle with where it comes from. And actually, when they start to think about it, people almost want to disassociate from it and they don't want to be a part of that process. Like when I do my deer butchery, the amount of places that'll say, no, you can't do that here because people will be offended. Like, why? It's a deer. It's already gutted when I do it. So it's only essentially
You're like
breaking it down
you're
into
like I'm not
primals.
dragging it in here and
Yeah, we're
poking
not.
it while it's
Yeah,
alive.
we're not gonna slit a goat's throat and butcher it there. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
it's really bizarre, but the amount of times it's been rejected. We live in a small farming town, and there's a food festival, and the lady who organizes it was really keen for me to do a display, and then the committee were like, "No, we can't do that because there might be vegans and they might protest."
I mean, it is a place of privilege to be so disassociated from that it makes you angry,
Mm.
because like in no other time in human history, really, and in most of the country, like me and Ray are Catholic. Like we fast for meat on Fridays, and historically, the only time people abstained from meat was in a period of fasting as
Yeah,
a like penance, as something that like was not good for you, like you're doing this as a sacrifice or in solidarity or whatever. So it is a because we have so much empty food where we can afford to not really eat the super nutritious stuff, which is
yeah,
meat, like especially whole animal, like nose to tail. Like there's nothing. I eat vegetables for taste only. There's nothing I'm eating for vegetables for any nutrients that I'm not getting in a more bioavailable way through an animal. So it's like a lot of places in the world can't buy vitamins to supplement their diets from what they're not getting from animal foods. So
yeah,
it that's why I like I have a couple vegan friends and I'm like, do you want to come and see that like this isn't the thing that it's been painted to be? Like, please let me show you the care that goes into this, the
mm.
sadness that goes into this, the love, the pride of like what because our first cow we raised for like 3 years, our first bull. So I was just, this whole 3 years, I'm just hoping it turns out the way I want it to.
Yeah. That's
And
a lot of investment.
yes. And so we finally, when we slaughtered him, we had some guys help us with the butchering process that have,
Yeah.
they have a company that goes places and butchers, and they could not praise enough how well they're like, I can't believe this animal is only grass fed. Like this is insane. Like look at this
Mm.
fat. Like look at the marbling. Like look at the color of the meat with like a dark red. Like just so nutrient dense. And I was just like, a like you're so much more thankful, for
Yeah.
that meat because I had so much invested into it, and I know that it's going to be the absolute best thing I can feed my family. A lot of peace in that.
Yeah. You're making me hungry now, though.
I know, I'm hungry too. I'm like,
I like, beef.
I got beef tongue and oxtail for dinner.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I got to get the tongue in the oven though. It's gonna take a few hours.
yeah, yeah. Nice slow cooked.
Yeah, I gotta be careful. I have like stuffy nose issues if I cook meat too long, so I gotta make sure it's like fresh and not cooked too long. But
Some
hopefully
bits you
the
do
three
have
or
to
four
cook longer.
hours would be.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, you do.
yeah. I mean, people that listen to this will already know I've said it before, but I find eating tongues weird. Like I could do it, but yeah, there's like a
Well,
psychological thing.
it's one of those cuts that like, are like a lot of the awful cuts, like kidneys and liver and heart and it's just something that we are told is just scraps when it's
Yeah,
in fact like the most nutrient dense part of the animal you could possibly eat. Like who told us that this is not what we should be eating? It seems weird that someone would say that if they want us to be our most healthy and awesome selves. But and I didn't grow up eating liver. It took me a while to find a recipe that now I cook like a Lebanese style liver and onions. So
yeah,
it has like a lot of like cumin and it's a very like Middle Eastern dish. And it's finally got to it because liver has that like very metallic like umami flavor that
yeah,
is off-putting to a lot of people. So I find like the cumin and the like more like Middle Eastern spices are pair really well. Like if I have to cook like an off cut, I'm looking for like Middle Eastern recipes because they
yeah,
still eat all the animal, can't afford not to. And while a lot of people like eating liver, like my dad used to eat liver in the Marines because it was like a cheap food to feed,
yeah.
which is insane because the animal only has one liver. You think it'd be the
It
nutrient
should be the
density
other
of
way
it,
around. Yeah,
the scarcity of it, yeah, and like the fact that
yeah,
like it's pennies on the pound is crazy. I mean, good for us because like if we don't buy liver, it's super cheap, but it's not a like poverty food.
yeah,
It's a very, very like in ancient tribes, like the person who killed the animal would get the heart and the liver because it was like the prized thing of the but kind of
yeah.
that's
Chicken
my
liver
main two
curry is
goals
good as
to
well.
get. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you gotta
Chicken
think
liver
like how
curry.
many chickens does it take to make a chicken liver curry? Like chickens have these little livers, It
Yeah,
takes 50 chickens to make
yeah,
one liver. And that's what like when people get mad about like the way we farm too, I'm like, one cow died for me to eat for 6 months. Like if you look at a pizza, like how many dead animals are on that pizza, between the pepperoni and the sausage and it's like how many.
yeah,
Like it's more moral. Like just one cow die. Like we eat about 3 cows a year because we eat about 1,600 pounds of meat a year. But yeah, like we're not having to butcher. And I know that like the same sun that I feel is the sun that's on my cows, and like the energy of that food is the same energy I have in me, and that's going to nourish me on an even deeper level. So there's lots of reasons we're crazy farmer Viking people that raise their own food.
yeah. So should we move on to the questions that I ask everybody? Because
Yes,
I don't want to keep you for too long. I know you said you've got to go for a walk today.
yes,
Um,
before it gets dark.
yes. I was supposed to talk to Ray. I don't know if we'll get time or not, but we can always do it at the weekend if that's easier for you guys.
Yeah, if you guys want like it,
Uh,
like I feel Ray talks even more than I do, so you guys might need a lot more time to.
I'll get him to talk more about the reenactment, I think, because we didn't really go into that with you. So
That's his
he can
bread
go
and
into
butter
the grit.
too. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah. I've spoke to him online about it a few times, so I know he likes to talk about
passionate
that.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So the questions that I ask everybody. If you had an unlimited budget, what would be your dream project?
Unlimited budget. To have a intentional living community where I move all my closest friends and family into a big plot of land. Everyone kind of has their own house, so we, can live communally, where everyone is raising their own thing. Like someone's doing vegetables, someone's doing dairy, someone's doing beef, someone's doing pork, and to where the load can kind of shared and to truly nourish everyone in the best way possible, both tribunally, like with, having a community and through the food that we're raising at the farm. And I
Yeah.
think it'll give everyone like a great sense of purpose and a great sense of nourishment. And especially like mothers, like having our kids all together. And I would build an intentional farming community with people that I chose to live there. That would be my goal.
You'll be the queen and rule over.
I would be the beef queen. I would supply beef too. I'm like, please grow vegetables. I don't want to grow them. I like eating them, but I don't want to grow them.
I grow vegetables when I have the
It's
time.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a I would for sure want to grow some carrot. I love carrots. Carrots are great. Just the time, yeah, the time issue is just
Yeah.
where it's at.
All right. So the next question is, do you think you could survive on a Viking age diet?
I do
I I
already.
I don't know why I'm asking.
I mean, you ask everyone. Yes, I
Yeah.
would love to. It'd be a little more bread than I'm used to, but yeah, I would love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So is there any food you'd miss?
I love apples, but I could have them, you know,
Yeah.
if like I grew them. But I don't know. I guess apples wouldn't have really grown.
Would it
I
be
love
more like
apples.
crab apples? So they'd be like the small and like really sour.
Yeah, yeah. So I guess apples would be the main thing I'd miss.
Yeah.
I like maple syrup in my or coffee. I'd miss coffee.
Maple
That's the
syrup and
one.
coffee. Yeah.
I could do like maybe I could find like a bark or something that could do some kind of tasting. Grow some
We make
mushrooms that taste like coffee.
we make acorn coffee.
Or dandelion coffee. Dandelion coffee is
Dandelion's all right.
definitely,
Yeah.
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 Hi,
Not
bud.
quite the
You're gonna say
same.
hi?
Hello.
Hi. He's gonna hug
Hi.
me. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. He, he might be pooping on me. That's why he's grunting.
It's all right. That's a first for the podcast.
Someone shitting on your show? Yeah.
So that leads into the next question, I guess. What's the weirdest thing in your kitchen?
In my kitchen, I
Yeah,
have a tongue in the sink right now.
that'll do it.
It's not gonna be pretty weird. Um,
To some people,
yeah,
yeah.
I have a lot of organ meats just in my freezer all the time. I try to like do one a week, because we're trying to space it out. But
Yeah.
yeah, like I've put eyeballs in soups and eaten tongue and liver and doing kidney soup. Just a bunch of
Yeah.
little goodies.
I don't know if I could
It's
do the
hard to get the
eyeballs.
eyes out of something without like popping it. It's hard. It's gross. Yeah.
Yeah. You can have that.
Keep it out of there.
No, I'm good.
It's a lot of collagen if you like put it in soup, like a broth
Yeah.
or something. There's a bunch of your eyes are mostly collagen, so help thicken up the. You're like, yeah, that's fine for you.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know
you have
that what girls say right
that.
now, like, I love that for you, just for you.
Yeah. So, what's the worst food or drink you've ever had?
Um, I don't like. Oh, I had octopus in Japan while I was moving. Don't enjoy any like squid or octopus
Yeah.
eating things. Um, yeah, I don't like that. It would have to be like deep fried or something for me to even tolerate it. So at that point, it's not even what it's supposed to be.
Yeah. You
Yeah,
can
I
eat
don't
anything deep
like.
fried.
Yeah, because me and Ray both had like raw horse in Japan, and that was delicious. But I'm not from like a seafood food varying place. Like I'm landlocked. So like
Yeah.
it there's a lot of like seafood stuff that I would find probably disgusting. I like
All right.
mussels and stuff. I hate oysters though. Don't like oysters.
I think I'd take oysters over mussels, I think. I'm not a
I
fan
love
of either,
mussels.
really. Yeah.
Even though there's like dirt inside of them, I'll eat the dirt.
Yeah.
I don't like the consistency of oysters. They're like it's like I mean snot. Just don't
Yeah.
enjoy it. And they're like where he's like, put some horseradish on it. I'm like,
Yeah.
these don't taste like anything. They taste like boogers that you're putting horseradish on.
They're
Like you might as well
salty.
just eat the they're just like I guess they are salty. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
They're
good.
they're better
Salt's good.
cooked. You can like put them on the barbecue in the shell, and
I
then
would try that. I would try them
it's all
cooked.
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
they're better that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mess
Um,
up some sushi, but not any squid sushis. Blech.
so what's the most memorable meal you've ever had?
After we butchered Wally, we took some of his heart right away before freezing it and ate some.
Yeah.
And then one time, every time we butcher deer, we take the heart inside and eat it. And I found some chicken of the woods mushrooms as we were coming back. So I got foraged some mushrooms and we took the deer heart and I just like pan fried it in butter. And we get to use like the butter we made. So it was like like any like
Nice.
total homegrown meals are like my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really
So that's butter
nice.
from your own cows, was that as well?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
The cow's name is Butter, and she gives us about she's dried out right now because the weather's rough and I don't want her to get too skinny. But
Yeah.
she gives about 2 gallons of milk a day, and I go out there and hand milk her and bring the we drink a lot of the milk, but if I can get a hold of some cream, I will make butter out of it.
Yeah. All right. So the last question is when you die, your family are preparing your grave goods. What food and drink do you get to take to feast in Valhalla?
I would like in there pan fried ribeye and butter, like stainless steel butter ribeye. I would like some mushrooms, like sauteed in wine in there. Um, and yeah, I think that's it. I love mushrooms and steak. Steak and mushrooms.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't really
Sounds
drink
good.
alcohol. Maybe some salt water. I drink a lot of water with salt in it. Maybe some of that too.
I don't think I've ever heard of anyone doing that. You put salt in the
Well, it's a
water.
way to add like electrolytes into your water.
Okay.
You know, it's not the H2O that hydrates you, it's the minerals inside the water. So you put a little, it's like in here right now. That's why it's
Yeah.
all creamy. Put a little salt in the water. It actually hydrates you and not just strips your body of minerals. But I can go on, but yeah. So I drink salt water.
Yeah. Well, if you ever want to come on again and we'll talk more food, then you're always welcome.
I feel like we have to. This went by way too fast and we're over by a half
I
hour.
know. Yeah, yeah. And obviously when you guys next head over this way, we'll have to try and meet up and do something.
Yes, if you
I
would cook for me, I would be forever grateful. I would
yeah,
love I've
I know
used a lot
Ray's
of your recipes to cook and just especially for our like Viking reenactment stuff. Like I've made your barley stews, I've made your oat cakes, I made a bunch of stuff, and I need
that's
to get your
awesome.
Hobbit book. Yeah, I don't think I own it unless Ray bought it for me and I forgot. But I don't think I own your Hobbit book. I just have your
Uh
two Eat Like a Viking books. Oh, I do have
send
it. Eat
me
Like a Halfling. Yeah, I do have it.
you do
Ray
have
said
it.
we
I was
have
gonna
it.
say, fair enough. I was gonna say otherwise send me your address and I'll send you a coffee.
No, we're gonna buy it because we want to
Uh,
support you, and we will do that.
but yeah, I know Ray's keen to get up to see more Forge and stuff as well at some point. So yeah, if you're ever over. Do you want to plug social media, anything like that?
I mean, I don't ever post on it really, but um, I am Valhalla WWE on Instagram and Twitter. But I do life pretty hard and don't post very often, but I do sometimes. You want to have the occasional post. I did have a YouTube channel called Roseburg TV. Again, don't post on that, but we have a lot of cool like videos for past stuff. Um, and yeah, just I guess just pray for me. The best things people could do for me.
Uh, Awesome. Well, thanks so much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. I had a
Really
great
appreciate
time.
it. Yeah, it's been fun.
All
And
right, we're gonna go on
yeah,
our walk.
yeah. Thanks everyone for
All right,
watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
thanks. Bye, guys.
If you enjoyed the show and want to hear more, remember to like and subscribe and give the show a rating. You can also help keep the show going by becoming a Patreon, where you'll get early access to all episodes. Or check out my range of merch on my store. Links are in the episode description. Thanks for watching.